Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Lisbon Panther podcast. Can you believe this is our 8th episode? How do you like our podcast so far? Don't forget to comment or like us on YouTube or Facebook. I'm your guest host for today, Jaden Heselton. How many of our listeners got a chance to listen to last week's episode with our teachers? It was great to hear about their connections to us, the students in Lisbon Regional School. Before we tell you about today's podcast and introduce our guests, it's time again for the Panther Roundup. What's going on at Lisbon Regional School? This week starts 3rd grade state testing. PALS is sponsoring drinks for all the kiddos. Varsity softball and baseball teams start their season on Wednesday, April 13th at home versus Colebrook. And also at home on Friday the 15th at 4 p.m. Easter is coming up next weekend. Hope everyone has a great Easter. One big thing that happened last week was that 3rd and 4th graders went on a one-day trip to Nature's Classroom. And we have 2 3rd grade guests here today to tell us about their trip. Can you first introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jade Prunier.
My name is Grayson Toll.
So to learn a little about what Nature's Classroom is, Jade, each of you had a teacher or a counselor for your group, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me some things that you did with your counselor?
We played a game called camouflage. Someone would close their eyes and then the other people would run and hide. The person counts to 15 and then they cannot move but they can look around. They can twist but they cannot move from their spot. And then if they see the person, they say their name. Then if you can't find any other people, you call migrate. And when you say migrate, you count to 10. And then the people who are out hiding, they need to move to a new spot. And if the person who is counting sees you, then you are called. And when she calls wolf pack, you need to go and slap her hand. The first one to do so wins.
Grayson, do you want to add anything? How about your favorite part of the trip?
My favorite part was probably making a fire and a shelter. We made the shelter out of woods and logs we found in the forest. We could fit about 3 people in it, and we put leaves around it so rain couldn't get in it. And we started the fire with, I think it's kind of a steel and something, and you started it with a cotton ball, and you have to scratch it kind of, and it starts a fire.
You have a favorite part, Jade?
Yes, my favorite was also the woodworking with building a fire and building shelter. I also liked we made these animal kind of like map things where we would write the animal footprints on cloth with special markers, and then we could color them in, but I didn't finish, but it still looked good. And then we went on the beach. They have a beach there, and we all found deer tracks. That was basically all we found. For building a fire, I didn't catch a fire, but I still had fun getting it, and I got really close and made sparks.
Thanks for stopping in to tell us about your trip.
Welcome.
And now let's get back to today's episode. Today's episode is going to take us around the world. Students in 5th and 6th grade just finished a major research project about their countries. So 4 of us are here today to talk about their country they chose in the whole process. I'll let them introduce themselves and tell us about what country they researched.
Hello, my name is Asa Metcalf, and I did Canada.
Hello, Hello, my name is Finn Chartier, and I did the country of Germany.
Hello, my name is Ryan Doubleday, and I did the country of Iceland.
Before we start sharing about our countries, can someone tell me all about the project? What was the whole process?
We had to make notes they couldn't be sentences. Then we had to make note cards out of those notes. We also had to have 2 hard copies, so if we had no internet, we could use those. Then we had to make a poster, a technology, my maps visual, and we had to make another visual, which could have been food or something, anything else really about your country. And then we had to practice and practice, and then we would present.
Thank you, Ryan. We all know this was a lot of work. What part of the project was the hardest part?
I think the hardest part was probably the presenting, really. I think for me it was fairly easy, but presenting was probably normally when I present it doesn't faze me much, but this project was a little more intense, I think.
My favorite part of this, the hardest part of this project for me was definitely the presentation, because I mean everything else was a little bit easier than I thought it would be.
I think the hardest part of the project was the presentation, pretty much time management.
What part did you like the most?
I really liked that on your poster you could put any fact about it you wanted, and you could go look for the pictures you wanted and really be creative with your poster.
I like making the food for the project because that was my visual, and I think everybody liked my food.
Which one did you make?
Oh, I made butter tarts from Canada.
I think I like making the poster and the third visual, because I really like being creative and making just anything really. I made a volcano and I just used what we had, some tinfoil on a t-shirt and a coffee cup. And
Next up is Ryan. Ryan, remind us what country you researched and what you learned about it.
I did Iceland, and I learned that Iceland has very interesting things. Like they have pretty much every school in Iceland has free schools from kindergarten all the way to college. They're also really environmentally friendly, which I think that's something that we in school should try to do. And I also learned that most of their products are imported from other countries. So.
Because our teachers keep telling us that everything we did with this project will help us prepare for middle school and high school, especially when you have presentations sophomore and senior year. My question is, what did you learn from this project?
I learned how to do public speaking and some cooking from this project, and I thought it was really fun.
I learned how to get a lot better with time management and cooking as well.
I think I learned that you really should not. You should, as soon as you get the project, you should start right away, because I got the project and I thought, well, I have a month, so I can kind of slack off a little bit, but that's not the case, because I found myself rushing at the very end. So I learned time management as well.
Asa, you also did a state project last year. Do you think this was easier?
I wouldn't say easier. The last year's state project, that was a little bit easier because you had to do a little bit less stuff than the country project.
Asa, would you like to tell us about your country?
Yes. My country was Canada, and Canada was very interesting to me. And I picked that, and also most of Canada's people are uh, have secondary learning like college.
So, as Ryan said, presentations were a part of a whole project. How did each of you feel about presenting your project?
For me, it was really nervous because I have a little bit of performance anxiety, but in the end, I think I got a little better with it.
I have to agree with that.
I felt a little nervous because it was a really big part of our grade, and I'm really trying to get principal's list a lot this year, and I really want to pass this grade in general. So it's a little scary at first, but once you're up there and you start going, it gets a little better.
I thought presenting was a little bit harder than the other stuff, but I thought it was better than I was thinking it was going to be. But yeah, I didn't think it was that bad.
I also thought it was a little nerve wracking, but once I really got into it and really felt like I was doing it, I realized that I could make it through and do a good job. Finn, your turn. Your country was Germany, right? What are some interesting things you learned about your country?
Yes, my country was Germany. I think country is a beautiful place, and there's over 2,000 castles, and the Disney Cinderella castle is based off a castle in Germany called the Neuschwanstein Castle.
Very interesting. Many of the students brought food as their visual. Did anyone's food stand out to you?
The food that stood out to me the most was, um, I'm pretty sure it was Emma Lynn Daniels. She made these cookies that were like wafers with caramel in the middle, and I thought it was really cool.
I think the food that stood out to me the most was Charlotte Fish's. She made, they're called Miguelito. They had a breading on the outside with like a vanilla filler kind of. They're really
My favorite, the most interesting food to me was definitely Jane Hazelton's. They were like little cookies, but they had buttermilk in them, which made them very tasty.
Personally, I thought that Asa's was a really interesting food because it had like a crust, kind of like a cup, and the filling was like a jelly kind of. I thought it tasted a little bit like the filling for apple pie. Now I'll share a little bit about my country. My country was Japan. And in Japan, there are a lot of countries, 6,852 of them to be exact. And also, they had a food called the hatosabre, which are little dove cookies that they would eat. But not only that, but they would also eat things like fish, vegetables, and more. So as you can see, there's like little lactose. So people who are lactose intolerant could eat well because there's not much of milk or anything like that. Last question for each of you. If you had to do the project all over again, what would you do differently?
I think I would do a better job of keeping track of my stuff because I had to redo all my notes because I lost them and it wasn't fun. And good thing my mom was willing to help me with that.
I did too. I also lost them.
One thing I would do differently would be definitely practicing my note cards a little more, so I didn't have to look at them like a lot. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Everybody wishes they could have more practice with those things.
If I did something differently, I would definitely start my poster and things a lot earlier because I thought I had over a month, I can slack off. But then at the end, I had barely any time and I thought everything was going to be late.
Yeah, I rushed a little too when I realized the time limit I had left by the time I had to start my poster. So I had to do that quickly, but luckily it all came out good.
Can I ask a question? How did you guys enjoy doing the mind maps?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. I like doing the mind maps because you could like plot points, and when you like you could actually show pictures with it. Like say you didn't put some stuff in your poster, but you wanted to share it, you could have a Google Mind Maps with like pictures, like more pictures than two. Instead of taking up space on your poster, it's just digitally clicking, and it'll pop up a whole new picture. So I thought I really liked it.
The mind maps wasn't my favorite out of all of it because it was on a computer and it was kind of hard to find something to say about all the pictures. So
I have to agree with that.
I really like the mind maps because same with Jaden, if you didn't have room for things on your poster, you can have more information and more pictures on your Google Mind Map.
But with that, my name's Jaden, and thank you to our guests and listeners for joining us today. Remember, episodes are released every Monday. Next week's episode will tell you a story. Hope you can join us. We also like to take a minute to thank the Education Foundation. And this week, from 3rd and 4th grades, they thank you for sponsoring the trip to Nature's Classroom. They do amazing things for us here at Lisbon. Bye, everyone.
bye.
Bye.